Welcome to Defense Diaries. I'm your host, Bob Mata, and this is a new case for us. And it's more than just a case. It's more of a movement that you guys know that I'm obviously extremely passionate about, which is wrongful convictions and exonerating those who have been wrongfully convicted and have lost their lives. So we're going to start like today is actually a big Gary, Indiana day, because both cases that we talk about today, first with Dr. Nicky Jackson, and then also with Timmy Donald, and then tonight with Bob Ruff, where he's talking about the Chris Bynum case. Both of those cases went down in Gary, Indiana, and both of them are wrongful convictions. One of the guests that you'll be hearing about and seeing today has been exonerated, and Nicky Jackson's an amazing human being that is passionate about wrongful conviction work as I am, and I'm really excited to have her on. She is the executive director of the Center for Justice and Exoneration Network, and that's out of Purdue Northwest, and she is doing amazing work, and she is out there not just talking about things, but doing things. And that's what makes a difference in this world that we live in. And one of the things that I'm really excited about is Nicky recently asked me to join the board, which I could not have accepted fast enough, because I want to be so involved with all of that. I want to help shine light on all these cases because it's important. You know, pressure makes diamonds. That's how this thing works. And that's what we plan on doing with a lot of cases out there. So let me bring them on. Dr. Nicky Jackson, welcome.
Hey, Bob.
And Willie Donald, welcome, my friend. How are you?
Thank you for having me.
Hey, thank you for coming. We appreciate you both. So let me first just ask you both, why don't you just give kind of a brief introduction to yourselves and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're up to.
Timmy, you want me to start or you want to start?
I start. My
Okay.
name is Timmy Donald. I'm exonerated. I spent 24 years wrongly convicted out of Gary, Indiana. I'm currently working for the Center for Justice Exoneration Network, and I'm a project manager at the center. And I look forward to helping people that was in my position get out of prison.
Love that.
I love that too. So I'm Dr. Nicky Jackson. I'm a professor of criminal justice at Purdue Northwest. About 9 years ago, I had the opportunity to meet Mr. Donald. As a result of meeting him, my world changed. My background is working with domestic violence victims. And after meeting Mr. Donald, I realized that folks who are like Mr. Donald, who were wrongly convicted and wrongly incarcerated, are also victims. So long story short, but we started a Center for Justice and Exoneration Network at the university, and really proud that Timmy is my project manager, and I think we're doing some really good things.
Yeah, I find it to be phenomenal, and I talk about it all the time. It's heartening to see when exonerees get out and they take it upon themselves, because to do the good work, because it's really easy to decide to be angry and bitter, and almost to a person that I've met, and I've met a lot of exonerees, none of them are like that. Every single one of them wants to get into the fight. They want to try to help those who were in the same position, just like Timmy said, that are in the same position they were in. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing, and it's such important work. And Timmy, you know better than anybody else, man, because you served 24 years as an innocent man in prison, how hard it is to get out of there. Once that cell door slams shut after you're convicted, the work that has to go into getting you out is unbelievable. It's you're literally moving mountains, you know? So can you guys, why don't you guys, and whichever one of you wants to, why don't you tell us kind of the facts behind what happened with you? But before we do that, Timmy, why don't you tell me what was Tim Donald's life like before that fateful day back in 1992, man? Like, what were you up to?
I was working at a department store called Gold Blacks. I was the shipping and receiving clerk. I was working full time. When I got off of work, I was training. I was going into Gary Career Center. I was training to be a welder. So I was going to taking welding courses Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And in my spare time, I played a lot of basketball. I enjoyed visiting with family members, hanging out with family members and my childhood friends. And it may seem boring, but that was my life before that fateful night.
No, that seems like a good, normal life, man.
Sure does. Timmy is very, 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 very family oriented. In fact, I think you were living with your mom at the time, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you had to think about that.
Yeah.
You were living with your mom.
I mean, it was a long time ago. I mean, when
Yeah.
we were talking about a Goldblatt's, man. It's
Yeah,
like,
I know, right?
It tells you how long ago we're
Goldblatt's,
talking about. Yeah, it's I don't think Goldblatt's exist anymore. It's like kind of like, yeah, they're a thing of the past. All right, so why don't you all kind of take us through that day, the probably at that point the worst day of your life, and tell us what went down.
Really, I had to go back to 1989. That's when the nightmare really began. So in 1989, childhood friends and I wanted to go to a local hangout, and we didn't have no transportation. So my friend's uncle, we asked him to borrow. We asked could we borrow his car. He said y'all could borrow the car. Y'all had to clean the car out. So I was cleaning the car out, and I happened to see his ignition was like it was disturbed. It was broken. It didn't look like a regular ignition. So I asked, his name was Billy. I asked Billy, what's wrong with your ignition? He said, I lost my key. I'm going to get it fixed. And, he showed my friend how to start the car and things of that nature. So we took off for the beach. I think my friend, I don't know if it's a traffic violation or what happened, but eventually we were stopped by the police before we made it to the beach. The officer looked in the car. He looked at the first thing he looked at was the ignition, and he automatically thought the car was stolen.
Right.
So we was taken to the Gary police station, and I was, they had each of us in separate rooms, and I was telling the officer that the car was not stolen. If you get in contact with the owner, he could come up here. He provide the proper paperwork and show you the car wasn't stolen. By this time, I had already been fingerprinted, and my photo had already been taken. And eventually, he brought the paperwork up there, showing he was the owner of the car, and we was released.
Okay, but you were in the system at that point.
I was in the system. My picture and my fingerprints was in the system.
How old were you? How old were you at that point?
How old was I?
Yeah.
19.
I probably was like 19. Yes.
Okay, and it was that the first time that you'd ever been arrested?
Yes.
Okay, so all right, keep going. So you're in the system now. so that's a significant part of this. You're in the system.
So fast forward to 1992. A Thursday. Just got paid. This is the old days when you had to physically take your check in the bank and cash it.
Yeah.
So I took my check. I went to the bank and cashed my check. I think I went to Church's Chicken, bought myself a chicken dinner. I was on my way home as I was walking up to the front door. My sister and her fiance was coming out the door, and I asked them where they was going. They said they was going car shopping. I asked them could I tag along. I usually tag along because it's probably a good chance I'm gonna get a free meal out the deal. So I used to. I tagged along with them. So we went to the first car dealership we went to was in Maryville, Indiana. We looked at cars. We test drove cars. My sister and her fiance, they went inside the dealership and they discussed prices, things of that nature. The dealer gave my sister a card. He put the prices of cars on the back of the card. I think that's significant. And
It is.
we headed to the car dealership in Crown Point, Indiana, going south. Same thing. We test drove cars, and they went inside and they discussed prices and things. And we left the car dealership. We headed back to Gary. We stopped at a filling station to get some gas. And by the time we arrived home, it was like 10 o'clock at night. Okay. This same night, it was a series of robberies, and one of the robberies ended in a murder.
Okay.
And Ms. Jackson, you can
You want to help me out here?
Yeah, help me.
So that the same time that Timmy was at the dealership, there were a string of armed robberies, I believe in the Glen Park neighborhood of Gary, Indiana. And Timmy was at the car dealership with his family while these were taking place. And this was a spree crime. There were, I believe, 4 or 5 robberies that took place. And during the course of one of the robberies, I believe it was the second to the last one, there was a gentleman, unfortunately, who had been killed. He was trying to protect his children. And, you know, as a parent, you can understand what he was doing. The gunman asked for money. He gave him what he had, which was, it was less than $20, whatever it was. He threw it on the ground. The gunman said, "Isn't your kid worth more money than this?" And then the Mr. Jimenez, the victim, he picked up, like, I think a picnic table or something, and a fight ensued because the gunman had pulled a gun on the children. And so anyway, Mr. Jimenez was trying to protect his kids, and he got shot, and sadly he was killed. And then the gunman ran and I believe committed another robbery right after that one.
Wow.
And so then, you know, they're obviously looking out for who committed this crime. They talked to the other robbery victims. And then, Timmy, how many days after this event, the crime spree, did the police show up at your door?
I think the robberies happened February the 27th. And I think they came to my house to arrest me. I think it was March the 2nd or 3rd.
Okay.
Either way, I think it was
a few days later.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe we should explain how that arrest occurred. Timmy, do you want to share it, or you want me to share?
Oh, I can share it.
Yeah.
I had just came home from work. I think it was I was watching Sports Center. I think it was like 4:45, and the police knocked at the door, and I opened the door, and they asked me, was I Willie Timmy Donald? And I said, I was. And they said they'd like to take me to the police station. They said something about failure to yield at a stop sign. And they wanted to take me to the police station.
So they came to your house, knocked on your door, and told you they wanted to bring you to the police station for a traffic stop.
Yeah, well, just wait to hear what he saw when he went outside the door.
And you're 23 at this point?
Yeah. About 22,
Yes.
23. Yeah.
22, 23, something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So when I looked outside, it was like police calls all the way down the block. So I thought that was odd.
For a failure to yield.
Well, failure to yield at the stop sign.
Sounds like a heavy police presence for,
Yes.
For a failure for a traffic violation.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
immediately, like you're thinking, what's going on here, man? Like what's really going on? And so
I never thought it was to that level, but I was thinking what was going on.
right. So all right. So what they get you out of the house and what do they do at that point?
I was placed in a police car and we headed down to the Gary police station.
Did they cuff you?
Yes.
Okay. So they cuff you right as soon as you walk out of it. Did they read you your rights at that point? Do you remember?
I don't believe so.
Okay. So they have you in custody. They got you in the back of the cop car, and then they go take you to the station. So what happens at the station?
I sat in a holding room. I was handcuffed to the wall. I sat in a holding room for it had to be at least 3 or 4 hours handcuffed to the wall. And eventually they came and got me. Took me to the detective room. Detective Bruce Outlaw took me in the detective room and he asked me about February 27th. And it just clicked in my head right away because I knew I got paid on that day. And I knew I went car shopping with my sister and her fiance.
Plus, it was only like 3 days ago.
Yeah, it was 3. I know you don't supposed to talk to the police, but I didn't have nothing to
I was
hide.
going to start yelling at you, Timmy, but at this point, what's the point?
And did you catch, Bob, the name of the detective? Detective
did.
Outlaw.
Wow.
Right. I thought he was making up that name when he told me the name, but no, that's really the name.
Hold on, I got to turn on a light. Yeah, no, I usually use natural light, but there's clearly a huge storm because it just got dark.
Oh, great.
Super dark.
Means it's heading our way. Okay.
Yeah, it's just rolling in here. All right, sorry. Let's continue. All right, so you get to the station. Do they Mirandize you there?
Bob, I never remember being Mirandized.
Wow. All right, so how many guys are coming at you in the room?
It was just one.
Okay. So how does that go?
Actually, I told where I was at. On February 27th, and he told me I was picked out the lineup by 2 females.
Wow.
So yeah, I think we need to back up a little bit and explain that, right?
All right, back it up.
So remember back in 1989, he's picked up for this, car situation. They
Right.
take his mugshot. So what the detective did is he showed Timmy's picture was thrown into a 6-pack is what happened.
Right.
And one of the victims was a retired Gary police officer, and she did not pick anybody out of the photo 6-pack. Other victims did not, and they brought in 2 of the victims, including the fiance or wife of Mr. Jimenez, into a room together. And one of them said, "I don't see him." And the other one, from my understanding, said, "I'm not sure." Bottom line is it went from "I'm not sure" to all of a sudden these 2 women now identify Mr. Donald.
So they get a positive identification from 2
So
women.
then they do the physical
Mysteriously.
lineup. Yeah. And so, when they do the physical lineup, what they're really doing is they're identifying the picture they saw in the 6-pack and not the man who actually robbed them, because all of the victims, all of them, had said that the robber, the killer, had bad skin. And it's hard to tell right now because of the camera, but Timmy's skin is very smooth. And they said, that was a very significant identification of this perpetrator, that he had acne or something, just really bad skin.
Right.
And if you see Timmy's mugshot, you'll see there's not a mark on his face.
Right.
And the build was different. What the victim, how the victims described the assailant was very different than Timmy's build.
Yeah, because I've seen the picture of you guys walking across a bridge. What are you, like 5'10", 5'11", Tim?
I I try to shoot myself up to 6 feet, but probably
Yeah, so
about
do I.
either 5'11".
So do I, man. I feel you. I feel you.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think he's about 5'11", close to 6 feet. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you've got this mysterious positive identification, which Dr. Jackson, as you said, showing a six pack and then having those people go in on a lineup. No bueno. That is not how it's done, because they're doing exactly what you said. They're saying, "Oh, well, that's the picture of the person I just saw."
That's
You know, when they're looking at you in a lineup where, you know, three of those guys are cops. So what, one other guy's like a dude who just works over there, you know, and so it's like that's a bad lineup. That's a bad identification for sure. So what do they do with your alibi when you tell them, like, look, man, like, they've seen me, like I have an alibi. I've got not just my family, but the people who work at these dealerships. We've got this card where, you know, dude wrote down information. Like, we've got proof that I was there. Because back then, I mean, it's not like it is now. Every place has surveillance, you know. It's like back then, it would have been, I'm assuming that they didn't have a camera there, because you would have been like, yeah, go get the video, man.
They did have cameras.
What? All right. So explain what
They
happened.
did. Yeah, they did have a camera at the auto dealership. But what had happened was, by the time Timmy's attorney got there, it had been taped over.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's what happened.
Wow.
Yeah. And the card where his sister had the name of the, you know, the salesperson's name or whatever, there was no date, from my understanding, on that card.
But didn't they try to talk to the guy?
That's where a lot of confusion. They testified at they gave testimony at the trial. A lot of confusion came in when the prosecutor said that that I went car shopping with that my sister and her fiance went car shopping a few times without me. That's where they confused the car dealership. We wanted to I was trying to get my attorney to get the jury to understand that I got paid on that day, and it was a Thursday, and that was the day we went car shopping. But the prosecutor confused the jury with they went car shopping a few times without Timmy with them.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think also the testimony, from my understanding, and Timmy, correct me if I'm wrong, but the salesman said that they did see Timmy, but they couldn't, you know, pinpoint the actual day. So that's
what it is. Yeah.
God.
Exactly.
What a nightmare, man.
Yeah.
Jesus. All right. So after they get the positive ID, I mean, are you at that point charged?
Yes.
So from you getting home from work, them coming to your door, you never see the light of day again for 24 years. So you go in. How long does it take for trial to happen?
Actually, my attorney said it was best that I take a speedy trial. So that's what we did.
Okay.
He was concerned with he was concerned about my well-being and while I was in the county, because I wasn't handling that situation real well.
Well, you know, I mean, you're a young guy who's never been in the system, man. It's
never had the rest.
That's what I mean. Like, the system starts with the arrest, and you know, like, going into that is like shocking to the core in terms of everything that you know in terms of life has now been stripped from you, and you're thrown into a cage with, you know, presumably some bad dudes. I'm assuming you were held in the county jail pending trial, right? But still, it's like, that's all pretrial detainees and people that have been convicted of misdemeanors. But man, it's like, it's a different world, and there's no way you can prepare yourself for it, especially when your life, like the flip of a switch, has changed that quickly. You know, like there's no way for you to prepare yourself for that kind of like change, man. It's unbelievable.
And
So
think about the family too, Bob. I mean, Timmy's very, very close to his family, particularly his mother and his sisters. And they were also thrust into this unfairly. And Timmy couldn't even have conversations with them when he was sitting at the police station. They didn't know what was going on. So, I'm a mother. I can't even imagine this happening to my child, sitting at a police station and not knowing, we're sitting at home and all of a sudden police are knocking at your door and then boom, he's just gone. And I mean, I have a son and
It's unbelievable.
I don't even know what's happening to him. And that's what
horrifying.
happened to Timmy's. This isn't just a Timmy Donald story. This is a Timmy Donald and family story.
Yeah.
I want to make that very clear to people because I think a lot of folks forget how the family has been impacted. And we'll talk more about that as we proceed, because I think Timmy, he'll share some information about his family that is going to be really shocking it will be shocking to everybody.
And so, all right, so you're in. I'm assuming you got appointed a public defender.
No, my family hired a private attorney. My co-workers helped my family pay for the attorney.
All right, and so you get your attorney. He tells you should do a speedy. Now in Illinois, if you're in custody, they got to go to trial within 180 days. I don't know what it is in Indiana, but I'm assuming it's pretty close to that.
Yeah.
All right, so you're rushed to trial, which, I mean, the speedy demand is a tricky thing because in a case like yours, where as soon as you find out that video doesn't exist, which corroborates that you were there on the date and time that you say that you were there, your case becomes much more difficult because then you're left with family witnesses who the prosecutors are excellent at being able to show that they're biased and they don't have credibility. And you're dealing with two women and a bad identification. Now, do you remember offhand whether or not your attorney filed any motions pertaining to that particular? Wow, it's a big storm, big electrical storm out here.
Oh, great.
So do you remember if your attorney filed a motion attacking that particular identification?
Exactly. That was that was our defense, misidentification.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
And so I take it that his motion didn't succeed pre-trial, right? And they allowed those two people to testify at trial against you?
Yes.
Okay. And so how long did the trial take?
A week.
Okay. And that's including obviously selecting a jury?
Yes.
Okay. And how long does it take the jury to come back? Do you remember?
It was a while. It was probably about 5 hours or more.
Okay.
I sat in the holding cell for a long time.
Okay. And so in terms of the state's case, I mean, what was it made up of beyond those two witnesses? Was that pretty much their whole case?
That's their whole case. There wasn't no physical evidence, scientific evidence linking me to the crime. It was just their case based solely on identification.
Yeah, and there was a search done. And Timmy, if you want to share a little bit about, when that warrant was issued, I think that would be great for all the viewers to understand.
Oh, the warrant was issued, a search warrant was issued an hour before the lineup was even viewed.
How could that be, Bob? How could that be?
It can't be. they had no probable cause to think that
that's what I told Timmy.
Yeah,
but they did.
There's no way. There's no way. That's unbelievable. So did your attorney attack the warrant?
Yeah, we attacked the warrant. Outlaw said it was a typo.
Said what was a typo? The time in which they.
The time.
Wow.
I didn't know that. That's the first I've heard that. Wow. Timmy, did you have an attorney during the lineup?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. And all right. So, I mean, this thing is a nightmare procedurally from the get. I mean, I can see you know, and it's from a lawyer's perspective. I'm sitting here and you know, that number 24 years based on what you've just told me here, like in this first 25 minutes, man. And I'm like, that should terrify people when you're hearing kind of what went down and how it went down procedurally. So they're going into like, and obviously they're searching your house, right? Looking for the gun. They got to
Well,
find
they're
the
also
gun.
looking for a hat. Okay, the perpetrator was wearing. Timmy, what kind of a hat was that?
They said the perpetrator was wearing a hat, Kango hat. They also said the perpetrator had on a red bandana, and they said the perpetrator had hair coming down from the hat.
Okay.
If anybody knew me, my coworkers, family, friends, anybody knew me, that was the time the hat top fade was in full effect, and I used to shave my hair bald. I don't know if you're familiar with Kid and Play, how you have his hair shaved bald, and my hair used to be shaved bald. So, you know.
Yeah, that was dead because like
so they were looking for those pieces of evidence, I'm guessing, and nothing turned up.
Nothing,
including the weapon.
No weapon, nothing from the proceeds from the robberies, purses, or nothing, none of that.
Nothing. And so you said it was Mr. Jimenez. So who was the victim who ended up dying?
Mr. Jimenez.
So it was, and you said that there was some kind of like scrap ensued, like there was some kind of physical altercation. Were they able to pull any DNA off of him in terms of under the fingernails, anything like that?
Jacket, Timmy?
Yes. I don't want to jump ahead, but when the students from Purdue Innocence Project got to working on my case, when they first came to see me, I know I'm jumping a little bit ahead, but when I was going through my transcript, I knew the victim had on a Cubs jacket. So I told the students, can they check the evidence room and see if that jacket's still in the evidence room?
Wow.
And they said, okay. They took DNA from me. Before they even checked the evidence room, they swabbed my mouth. So they checked the evidence room. They found the jacket was still intact in a plastic bag, still sealed.
Wow.
And they told me they had it. I said, that's great. So the jacket was combed, and they found Negron hairs on the jacket. They came back a second time. I think they came back a second time and got DNA, and I gave them some more DNA, and of course, the DNA didn't match.
Wow. So did they run the hair? Because like back in '92, if it wasn't down to the root, they probably wouldn't have been able to pull a profile off it. Now today, in this day and age, they'd be able to pull a profile off that hair. All right, so let's go back. I want to go back to the trial for a minute. So they essentially put on these two witnesses who positively ID you in court. Did they do an in-court identification where they say, do you see the man?
Yes.
And so they both point at you and
Yes.
they do that. And then as a defense, who do you guys put on?
My sister testified and my brother-in-law testified. Okay. And that was our only two witnesses, my alibi witness.
And I think just so everybody understands as well, I think there was no evidence against Timmy. And so I believe his attorney was probably, and Timmy and I have talked about this, really overconfident that, yes, you know what, you know, there's nothing. So you're going to be okay. You're going to go home and all of this stuff because they have nothing other than these two identifications, even though the other witnesses didn't identify Timmy. So I think from what Timmy shared with me, there was a lot of confidence. And so Timmy thought he was going to be able to go home, and then boom, the jury comes back, right, with this guilty verdict.
Yeah. And so I take it.
So Bob,
yeah.
So he's not trying to interrupt you. So what my my lawyer did when the other victims didn't pick me out the lineup, and they described the same assailant, that's when the prosecutor they shift their narrative and try to say the other I didn't rob the other victim, but I robbed these two victims, but they described the same assailant.
Wow.
Yeah, even though these all happen in the Glen Park neighborhood within about 45 minutes to 50 minutes, all in the same. I mean, it's just crazy. It's just crazy.
And did any of the other robbery victims give a description of the person?
Yes, all of them.
And did any of them, did they all match with did they all sound very familiar?
Exactly the same. Same hat, same bandana.
After Mr. Jimenez was murdered, the assailant went to rob undercover police woman and her daughter.
She was retired, I think, right?
Retired.
Yeah.
And he told police woman, "I just shot somebody, ma'am." And the police woman described the same perpetrator as the other two victims that picked me out the lineup described. Acne face, bandana, Kango head. They described the same individual.
But she also, I believe she was retired at the time, but maybe she wasn't. But regardless, she's a law enforcement officer from Gary, and she was from Gary, right, Timmy?
Yes.
Yeah, and she would, when she was doing the identification, the 6-pack, she didn't pick Timmy out when, so here's a cop who doesn't even pick him out, right?
Yeah. I mean,
and she was robbed after the assailant had committed the murder. She was the witness after that.
Yeah, she was the last victim. She and her daughter. Yeah. So he gets convicted. There's so much to this story, and I'm like,
wait, you're jumping too far ahead. You're going too fast. I got a couple more questions. So Timmy, first of all, your defense attorney should never have been confident. I mean, the way that you kind of go, because you never know what a jury's going to do, right?
Exactly.
And you have to assume the worst. I want to ask, did your attorney or his investigator or her investigator go to both? You said you went to 2 different car dealerships that night. Did he go try to interview people himself, or was he just relying on police reports?
He interviewed both.
Okay. And he was of the mindset that it would hurt, even though this gentleman, the guy that you were dealing with at the car dealership, remembered you being there, but was a little foggy on the date. His mindset was, we're in a better position not to put him up to corroborate your story, because he was so afraid of the prosecution's theory in terms of what they were going to say is that they had been car shopping many, many times. Multiple times they went with Timmy. This guy's just wrong about the date.
Yeah, he testified. Both car dealerships, dealerships.
The state called him.
Yeah.
No, who called him? Did the state or the defense call him?
Oh, I think we called him.
Yeah, the defense.
You're right. I think we called him.
Okay, so you have your sister, your brother-in-law, and these dealership guys. All right. So I feel a
because
little
I think
bit
Timmy, you said it was your sister.
Yeah, I forget. Yeah, we did call them as witness. I forget. Sorry.
Okay. Hey, man, it's been a long time. Don't worry about it. All right. So
I don't forget.
Takes them about 5 hours. They come back. They convict you, and can you try to describe the best that you can? And I know how hard this is in terms of trying to, not just from the time that's passed, in terms of trying to remember that feeling when they came back and said guilty for some shit that you didn't do. And it kind of like when does it hit you when you hear the jury say we found him guilty? Did they sentence you right away, or did sentencing take place a little bit later?
Sentences took place like 3-4 months after I was convicted.
Okay, so they do a PSI. When do you and what was your sentence when you get in front of the judge?
60 years.
60 years. So at what point does it hit you, the reality of this situation? Because it's like leading up to trial, you got a lawyer saying, don't worry about it. This case is shit. We're going to beat this. And, and you want to be hopeful, right? You're like, and you're sitting there as an innocent man, like the system's got to figure this shit out. Like I can't be going down on this shit because I didn't do it. Somebody's going to see this as bullshit.
I was a little naive, Bob. I thought once I was arrested for the crimes, I thought they'd figure it out.
Right.
Then once I got to the county jail, I thought they had figured it out. Then once I got convicted of the crime, I just said they didn't figure it out. And once the jury came back with a verdict, I just looked back at my family and everybody would just bust out in tears. My sister was pregnant at the time. She had my girlfriend, she had fainted. My sister, my girlfriend at the time had fainted. My sister was pregnant. She had fainted. So I was concerned about my sister too, because they had to take her to the hospital.
Wow.
So the night was just devastating.
It's unbelievable. Well, and that's what Nicky was talking about. You know, people don't really think about the fact of the impact beyond just you. It like the impact is so profound on the people that love you. Everybody's life was destroyed that day. Everybody's life was changed forever. You know, even with you being out, we're gonna get to that. But you know, like all of your family members were stripped of having you in their lives of any substance. You know, it's one thing for them to come and visit you, but in terms of you being able to play with your nieces and nephews, you know, God forbid. I mean, I hope did your mother pass away when you were in prison, or
My dad,
Father.
my father.
and I'm assuming you didn't get to go to his funeral. You know,
Not only did he not get to go to his father's funeral, I mean, let's even take it one step further. He didn't get to comfort his mother, sisters. He's the only boy in the family. And he's, you know, he feels responsible for his mother and his sisters, and he wasn't able to be there. I mean, and these are the things he shared with me over the years. You know, it's bad enough that his father passed while he was incarcerated, but the fact that he couldn't hold his mother and comfort her, I think that was really traumatizing for him.
All of it is. Every single thing of it, like being stripped of the ability to be able to meet somebody that maybe you fall in love with and have your own and start your own family in the prime of your life, being robbed of being able to be with your sister and her kids and being an uncle to them. Just all of it. All of it's a nightmare. Being able to go to a church's chicken after you get your fucking paycheck to go enjoy some good food and go chill at the crib. All the things that we take, you know, and you were like, I had a simple life, but it was a beautiful life. And it was a life where you were free to do what you wanted to, and you were stripped of it in the blink of an eye, man. And, you know, it's like that. That's why, like, I really try to paint a picture, not so much because I know you guys know this, obviously, because you lived it, but for the people out there that are watching and that'll watch this on Replay Crew, I want to try to make this as vivid for them in terms of how devastating what happened to you really is. So,
Bob, can I share a story with you?
Absolutely.
So, my sister waited and waited and waited because she wanted to marry Dan. That's who I was with at the car dealership. She waited and waited. I guess she figured she couldn't wait no more. So, because I was supposed to be my sister's best man. So I guess she couldn't wait no more. So then they didn't want to tell me they got married. I had to find out by somebody that was friends. Her brother was in prison. His sister was friends with my sister, and that's how I found out she was married.
Wow.
Well, my sister, I didn't never hold that against her. She was it hurt her so bad that she didn't want to tell me that she had got married.
Yeah. So remember, she was dating Dan when they were she was with Dan at the car dealership. That was her then boyfriend. Now, you know, her husband. And Timmy, I'd never heard this until right now, but obviously was supposed to be in the wedding. And I know Sheila and Dan, and I can just picture that they were waiting and waiting, and Timmy wasn't coming home. And eventually they did get married.
God, that's unbelievable.
And think about that, you know, the happiest day getting married, and it's tainted with this cloud of a nightmare of her brother sitting in prison. And they know for a fact that he did not do it because they were with him and nobody believed them.
Right. Like that part of it, that key to it is beyond. It's like those cases where, you know, you've got the person who's been found guilty and convicted who knows, but where you have those cases where other people know and I mean no, that their loved one didn't do it, and then you're sitting there feeling helpless, you know, and it's like, so, and I know how the process goes. The first thing you start working on is your direct appeal, right? I'm sure your lawyer, as soon as he heard that, he's like, don't worry about it. We'll fix this on appeal. Well, you know, we're going to appeal this right away, right? Those are like the first things this guy's telling you. And so, you know, when you get shifted over to the DOC, you know, how long are you in there before there's any action on your case? When does your direct appeal get filed?
So I actually I had went back to court on a motion to correct error.
Mm-hmm.
Rhonda Williams, the first victim, we call this the sighting.
Rhonda Williams, Rhonda Williams, who was one of the eyewitnesses who identified him.
Okay.
She called the police. She called the police and told them that she just seen a perpetrator walk past her house.
This is after you're convicted.
Well, no. Timmy,
Yeah,
can I back up? Yeah, let me back it up so we can explain all this. I think we kind of jumped a little bit, but after Timmy had been convicted, he learned that his attorney learned many years later, right? Was it right after?
It was months.
Months. Okay, I didn't know it was that quick. But anyway, what happened was Rhonda Williams, who was one of the two women who misidentified Timmy, she had called the Gary police, like, what was it, Timmy, a day or two after the robbery? And she had said, hey, the guy who robbed me, because this guy came into her home too, right? The guy who came and who robbed me, he's out in front of my house. He's here. He's in front of my house. So Gary officers came to her home, interviewed her. And what they had done is they had gone to Timmy's workplace, and I think it was your supervisor, had said, well, he was here at work. Here's his time card. He was with me. We were actually in the cafeteria or wherever they had their snacks that day. So we were together, and that information was hidden.
Oh, little Brady violation.
So you got a Brady violation right there.
A little Brady violation. So these cops, they go and talk to one of their two key witnesses, just to clarify this, who after the fact sees the perpetrator that robbed her walking in front of her home. She immediately calls the police. And this is before she ID'd you, correct? Or after?
I think it was after.
No, it would have had to been, I think, before. I think
it makes more sense if it was.
Yeah.
If it was.
Or maybe it was after. I don't know.
I think it would have to be after, because if they're running to his job to try to verify whether or not Timmy was working that day, and then they're like, oh shit, because they've already got him in the system on this thing. Like that would be the reason that they would.
Bob, I believe she testified that this is where it gets a little tricky, because I've always wondered about, was it before or after, but I believe she had called the police within a day or two or a few days. It wasn't more than a few days, Timmy, I don't believe. And Timmy wasn't arrested till what, March 2nd?
Second or third.
So I'm not really sure, but somehow within this time frame, regardless if it was before or after, she IDs this person. They go to Timmy's. It had to have been before Timmy, because he was working, right? Weren't you working, Timmy, when they came to or were you already in jail?
You know what she's asking? She's asking if, like, when they went to go verify whether or not, because at that point they had already liked you one way or another, whether they had shown these witnesses the 6-pack or not. I mean, if it happened before, you were already on their radar.
That's right.
As somebody that they liked. And when she comes in, and then they're like, all right, let's run over there and see if this dude was even working. Because if he's not, that really helps our case, because he wasn't, you can't be in two places at one time. You can't be at work and you can't be walking in front of her crib at the same time.
Yeah.
But when they find out that you're at work, I mean, either way, like Nicky says, it's an egregious Brady violation, because it exonerates you. It's completely exculpatory evidence. If she sees the man who committed the crime after the fact at a time that you're at work. So it obviously that shows that they went into that knowing. It's even more egregious if it was before, because they went into the identification with the lineup knowing that you weren't the guy.
Yeah, because from my understanding,
still egregious.
From
Either
my
way, it's
understanding,
egregious, but yeah.
From my understanding, my attorney, he was in the courthouse. He seen one of the police that was investigating my case, and the police asked him how I was doing. It wasn't outlaw. It was the other. He asked him how I was doing, and he told him, "What you mean how he was doing? He in prison." And he asked him why he didn't why he didn't share the information with my prosecutor, and my prosecutor told him he didn't need him to testify.
Yeah, so I'm just we're jumping all over the place here, so I want to make sure we're kind of smooth. So we've already got this situation going with the Goldblatts, right? And then after Timmy gets convicted, right? He's convicted. One of the officers who had, I believe, talked to Rhonda Williams that day. He just ran into Timmy's lawyer at the courthouse and said, "Hey, how's that guy doing?" And he said, "He's incarcerated." And the cop's like, "What do you mean he's incarcerated? He didn't do it." And that's kind of but this was shortly thereafter. But nobody talked about this. Nobody brought it to the forefront. And Timmy sat in prison for another 23 years or something like that. So they had this information right away, and yet it's still not disclosed to anybody.
Well, worse than that, they had this information right away, and they proceeded in prosecuting him. That's the ugliness of what we're talking about here.
Well,
they knew he wasn't the guy. They knew he wasn't the guy. If Osprey,
the prosecutor had it.
Michael's saying that it had to have been before the arrest and after the ID, which makes sense. Yeah. But either way, they knew. And you know who else knew? Was the prosecuting attorney.
Well, they found it in the prosecuting attorney's notes. When the students, that's what I mean. We're jumping ahead, but when the students started working on Timmy's case, they found this note with that information that had been withheld from the defense.
Unbelievable.
Get-go.
All right, so now let's go through the process. So you get your direct appeal. Your direct appeal hits. I'm assuming that's denied, and your conviction's upheld, right?
Yes.
And then you appeal that, again upheld. And where does it go from there? Do you go to the Indiana Supreme Court? Do you start your post-conviction work? So I mean, as the years pass, man, how do you maintain hope?
The power of innocence. That's what got me through all those years. The power of innocence. I know I didn't commit the crimes, so that's what kept me going. And
did you become a bit of a jailhouse lawyer yourself, or did you find a jailhouse lawyer? Because there's always a good jailhouse lawyer in there. Somebody who reads the books, learns it up, and tries to help the dudes in there. I mean, what did you do, or did you just wait? Because at that point, were you able to afford to pay for an appellate attorney, or was one appointed to you?
No, for my direct appeal, one was appointed to me, but during my post conviction, Thomas Vaines, he's one of the great attorneys in this area. He decided to take my case pro bono.
I love that. Guy's a hero. I love guys.
He's a hero. He really is.
All right. So how long are you in before you find out about this Brady violation, and how was that uncovered?
Now, like we said, we had jumped the gun. That Brady violation, that was the first Brady violation. That was denied. It was denied not for merit. It was denied for the time elapsed, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that was denied. So one day I was having trouble sleeping. I was watching a TV show. It was a guy in Texas death row. He had contacted the Innocence project in Texas, and it was like a TV series. And students got to start working on his case, and they eventually got him released. So I got the idea. I wrote down everything that happened in my case. I got a friend of mine that work in the library to type it up. I got copies. I got a directory of all the innocent projects around the United States, and I just sent letters out to everybody. And my response was, your case seems like it has merit, but we don't have the resources to reach out to help you. So by this time, Deal Innocent Project reached out to me, and they decided to take on my case.
And so how long are you in at that point?
This was in 2007.
Wow.
They decided to take my case.
Okay. And so what's the first thing they do?
They came to see me, and when I looked at them, I said to myself, how y'all gonna get me out of prison?
Because they were a bunch of undergraduate
College students.
I mean, we're talking 19, 20-year-old kids who are coming to see him at the prison. And he always says this story. He always tells me, he's like, as soon as they walked in, I was like, oh man, like, here's a bunch of kids going to be working on my case. This is what I got. But they were rock stars.
That's your army though, right?
Yes.
At that point. So 2007, they come on board, and I'm sure they were eager. It's like young people that get involved at that age are of highly motivated individuals, and they're feeling very much what the cause is. It's like you kind of have that thing where maybe in your mind you'd like to see a grizzled old veteran come in.
Yeah.
But those dudes get kind of worn out.
Yeah.
I mean, you need those youngsters to come in that have the fire and the passion for what they're doing. And so, all right, so what happens? Tell us the story. What happens once they come on board?
So they started investigating the case.
Why don't you tell them about them reaching out to Rhonda Williams? They
That's
found Rhonda
why I said they started investigating a case. They reached out to Rhonda Williams. She had relocated. She stayed in Florida. She was staying in Florida. So when they went to see Rhonda said, and they introduced themselves, and they told her they was working on my behalf. Rhonda said that I forgot how she worded it. She said,
I've been waiting for like all these years for somebody to come find me.
yeah.
Oh man, that's music to your ears as soon as somebody's saying that, man.
Yeah, and she was feeling, from what I've read, I don't know, and I've never talked to Rhonda Williams, but from what I've read in all of the documents, that she felt really guilty because she's known for, because she saw the person in front of her home. So I'm not sure why she testified that it was Timmy when she knew that the perpetrator was in front of her house wasn't Timmy. But regardless, whatever happened with that, I don't know. But what I do know is she'd been carrying this heavy burden for a very long time. So, I've written a book about wrongful convictions and victims, and she is another victim in this nightmare, right? She's known that Timmy is in prison for something that he didn't do. And she told the students, I tried to tell them, before trial, she was like, I tried to tell everybody it wasn't him, and nobody listened at that point.
Wow.
She also said in her recantation that they told her that they arrested me in front of her house. And we know that'll be, yeah. And she said they encouraged, like they do witness, they encourage her to say this the guy, and
Yeah, they created the narrative, and she believed that when the police tell you, hey, we arrested that guy in front of your house, and that's him, then she's going to believe that.
Yeah, and when they start applying the pressure, and they're telling you that you didn't see who you thought you saw. I mean, like you said, the skin condition is pretty a pretty definitive identification type mark.
And
And
then she also said, Bob, that she and the other witness was in a detective room looking at photos together.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think we talked about that at the beginning. And so she, you know, she was the one who brought that to everybody's attention, that, you know, she was in there, and when she was like, I don't see him, she felt pressured to pick him out.
Yeah. You know,
And during this time too, they also found notes in the prosecutor office that she said that this before trial, this like 3 months before the trial, she said, I'm not 100% that he's the assailant. He said he got wide the person I viewed in the lineup got wide shoulders. The assailant didn't have shoulders like that. She just gave a descriptive how the assailant look.
Yeah, and it's like, and like you said, Nikki, it's like she is a victim, but at the same point, she still got on the stand and pointed at Timmy and said, "That's the guy." You know what I
Right.
mean? And like,
But
and I get it. Like,
we're
she's
not going to
got,
falter. We're not going to falter
hey,
because
look, he's out, so she did the
yeah,
right thing eventually. There's no question about it. But it just goes to show the power of the state in terms of influencing witnesses in cases like this, who are just folks, you know, and she's a victim in terms of being a victim of a violent crime, on top of
right.
having to deal with the cops trying to close a case and squeezing her. So trust me, I'm in no way blaming her for any of that. However, you know, and she's a victim because she had to live with the fact that she just wasn't certain, and she probably didn't think that you were the guy at the time she uttered those words on the stand, you know, and that was something that she had to live with for a long time. And thankfully, being a good person, you know, as soon as somebody came to her, she spilled. So you
Well,
guys
she
get
tried
that.
telling people. So you know, I don't know what happened during the trial, but what I know, you know, prior to the trial with the police, she tried explaining what happened. So, you know, when there are misidentifications, you know, I really feel bad for the witnesses too, because they are oftentimes fed information, and they start to believe, they believe that they've got the right person. Listen, the police officers told me, you know, this is the guy, so it's him, and you trust the police, right?
Well, especially if they're saying that they made the arrest in front of her house,
Yeah,
you know, so that, you know, it's like,
yeah,
she's like,
right.
all right. I mean, for whatever reason, this guy doesn't look like the guy, but I'm going to go with it. All right. So you get her recantation. What happens next? So, like, obviously everybody's pretty excited about this recantation.
So
What happens next?
2013, I think the Lake County prosecutor office know their casing was falling apart. So they contact my attorney and they offer me a plea deal. They said I had to admit in open court that I committed a crime, but I would still be charged for the murder.
So they give you an offer,
No, back up to me. Back up for a second. They said that he didn't have to admit in open court, right? Not did, but did not. So I just want to make sure, because I think I didn't hear the not, but did not have to admit in open court that he committed the crimes, but he'd still have this record. But they also said, and I think this is important, that Timmy could go home that day, right?
Immediately.
So it's not really an Alford plea, because they didn't expect him to go in and admit guilt.
Yeah, we don't have an Alford plea, I guess, here in Indiana. I learned that after Timmy's case. I didn't know that before. So Timmy, why don't you tell them what you said to the prosecutor?
Well, I personally wrote the prosecutor and told him I would not accept a plea bargain. And my attorney asked me why I did it. I told him I wanted him to hear it from me and not from my attorney.
Yeah, because you want to be fully exonerated. You
Well,
know,
but he didn't want the attorney writing the letter for him. He wrote the letter himself to the prosecutor saying, I'm declining. And I think, you know, and I've never shared this with Timmy, but it was a powerful moment for him. You know, it was a really
huge moment. Well, I mean, if I'm Timmy and, you know, you've got your lawyer like you know, because like it's easy for a lawyer to sit there and say, "Oh, well, look, man, you're gonna walk out of here. Like, who cares?" You're like, no, man, I didn't do this, and I'm not taking a beat, and I'm not gonna have that on my record. I'd rather sit in here, even though you're offering me the ability to be able to walk out of here. I, I'm not taking it, man. It's huge.
Exactly.
It's incredibly powerful.
So what I told when I first met Timmy, one of the questions I asked him is, you know, why didn't you take the deal? Because I'm not going to lie to y'all, I probably would have taken the deal to go home, right? To go home to my family. And he said they called my sister a liar, and they called my family liars, and they weren't lying. And I'm not coming home till everybody knows the truth. And that just shows you the integrity of this man. I mean, the integrity is something I can't even describe, because again, I told Timmy I would have signed something probably to go home. He's already been in there for 21 years. Think about that. 21 years. And they're giving you an opportunity to go home, and you say no because I didn't do this. That's pretty incredible.
It's incredibly incredible.
Yeah, I know, right?
You know, it does. It just goes to your integrity, and it goes to you, just your steadfastness in the fact that, look, because at that point, I mean, what you have going for you when you make that huge decision, that scary decision, because the easy thing is just take the plea and walk out, and then deal with all the other bullshit after the fact.
I couldn't do it.
You
I couldn't do it, Bob.
You couldn't do it. And what you had in your favors, you knew that you were getting close to being able to unravel their lies. You know, you were so close to unraveling. And when you had the recantation in your pocket, you knew that and they're only coming to you with a, hey man, we'll let you walk on a murder beef, you know, but you just have you have to have the conviction on your record still. You knew you had him over the barrel. So man, number one, I applaud you on your integrity and your bravery, because it's like there is still no guarantee, because that's the part of it that you don't know.
Yeah.
That's where it gets scary. There's like, even though, you know, you got lawyers and in this team that's saying, oh man, we're getting so close, there's still that chance that it's not going to go through. You know what I mean? So that's a huge,
it's like you said, you're taking a chance with a jury.
100%, man.
Yeah.
All right, so you tell them to pound sand with their plea deal. What happens next?
Can I share a quick story with you?
Of course, you can share all the stories.
So before this, my mother came to see me while I was in prison. My mother said, "I'm gonna play the Powerball. I'm gonna get you out."
Well, wait, Timmy, you got 3 years to get to that story.
Okay.
You got 3 years. Don't jump the gun here.
Okay.
So after that happened, Medill continues their fight, right? And long story short, eventually his attorney calls him and says, hey, I don't want to tell your whole story, but says, hey, you're going to go to the county jail because there's another hearing. And Timmy, this is according to Mr. Vanes, who shared this with me, said Timmy was like, no, I don't want to go back to the jail because he has to, you know, Timmy's told me why, because the jail conditions over here are not that they're good anywhere, but they're really overcrowded. And Timmy would have had to slept on this concrete floor with no pillow, with lots of people. And Timmy said, I'd rather be sitting in prison than go over there and deal with that. So I was like, no, because like it's another time that he's going to have to be miserable and go to court. And then, you know, where's it going to get him? He's already been through this many times. Right. Well, Vanes wasn't going to take no for an answer. Vanes told him, you're going. So they bring him to Lake County Jail. And Timmy, why don't you talk about the phone call with your mom?
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
I wanted them to understand. Okay. Go ahead.
She came to see me it was a Saturday. I got the news that my case was overturned Monday. So I literally called. She came to see me Saturday. She told me that she was gonna play the Powerball. The Powerball was like 300 million or something like that. She was gonna get me out of prison. I don't know how, but she said she was gonna get me out. So Monday came, and I called my mom's, and she said we won. I'm thinking she talking about the Powerball. She was like, "No, you won. We your case got overturned."
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So were they in on a post conviction? Is that what it was?
It was a post conviction.
Wow.
The judge ruled in my favor.
Wow. Thank God. So once that happens, and then the state still has the opportunity to try to retry the case. I'm assuming they thought better of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And at that point, I mean, so you get that news, man. What does that feel like in that moment? If you can remember, like when your mom tells you that, does it even seem real? Because like you
Yeah.
hear it from your mother before you hear it from your lawyer, right?
I heard it from my mother before I heard it from Vanes, my lawyer.
So what do you do?
I thought I was just going back to. Actually, I thought I was just going back to court. Myself, I thought they were gonna retry the case, and I was gonna go to a hearing. They're gonna retry the case. So I was brought back to the county. I was in the holding room, and I couldn't sleep, so I called my brother-in-law, and I asked him what time the hearing was, and he was like, "You're not going to a hearing. They're supposed to let you go today," but he said the prison didn't finish the paperwork in time, and the judge said let him go. They better let him go bright and early the next morning.
Wow.
And that's what happened.
So he didn't even know when he left.
Yeah.
He left everything behind at the prison. He had no idea that he was actually, after 24 years, almost 24 years, going home.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a beautiful picture of Timmy coming out of the jail, out of Lake County Jail, with his mother. It's I get emotional every time I see this picture. But yeah, it's you can actually see it. We were in People magazine, and you can see the picture there. But it's pretty remarkable because he didn't know that he was actually going to be walking out the doors that day.
It's unbelievable. Did you talk to your so you talked to your mom and then your brother-in-law? Had your attorney been able to reach out, contact you at all before you got out?
When I was
was he, because you decided not to go to the hearing, right? Was he made like that? I would have jumped in my car and driving directly to the person.
Oh, he got him there. Mr. Vanes got him there. Oh, if you met Mr. Vanes,
all right.
Yeah, no, he got him there. He did get him. Oh, yeah. He's an amazing attorney, and he got Timmy there.
Clearly,
so,
he did.
Yeah.
He did yeoman's work there. So, all right.
Actually, when I was released, I asked my sister to take me to Vane's office to thank him for all the hard work he put into my case.
Yeah, that's
and that's important too. Just so your audience can understand, when Timmy after he walked out the door, one of the first questions I asked him when I met him is, what was the first thing you did after almost 24 years locked up? What was for me, it'd be, I'd go eat. Like that would be the first thing I would do. And he said, he didn't actually tell me this. Actually, it was Mr. Vanes who told me the story. Vanes told me that the first thing that Timmy did was come to his office and shake his hand and thank him. And that's just, again, talking about his integrity. And I said to Timmy, what? He's like, yeah, the first thing I did was go to Mr. Vanes, shake his hand, and I wanted to personally thank him for the years of working on my case. And then after that, Timmy, what did you do right after you went and saw Mr. Vanes and thanked him?
I went to Golden Corral.
got your buffet on.
He went to Golden Corral and ate everything.
Yeah, got his buffet on. All right, man. So you're out, and what I want to talk about now, which I think is probably not talked about enough, you've been exonerated at this point, and you're sent back out into the world with nothing. I mean, thank God you've got your family there, but in terms of anything else, you're starting from scratch. I mean, what do you do?
It was hard, difficult. I mean, it's still difficult. I remember going to the doctor's office with it's like being dropped in the middle of a foreign country, and you don't know the custom and you don't know how to speak the language.
Yeah,
that's what I equated to. And I remember going to the doctor's office with my sister, and it was a Keurig machine sitting to the side, and I wanted to get a cup of hot chocolate, so I went over there, and I was trying to peel the top off. I didn't know how it worked. and my brother-in-law came over there and showed me how the Keurig machine worked. It's just don't little things like that
But that's
that
it
make
though,
things.
man. I
I didn't know
mean,
how to catch the bus. I was trying to catch the bus one time, so I didn't want to seem like I didn't want to embarrass myself. So I let people go in front of me to see where they put the change at, and I looked, and that's how I was able to find out where to put the change at. And it was just difficult.
wow,
I
And,
couldn't
man.
find a job.
again, let's go back to the family too, because it wasn't just this whole new reentry for Timmy. It was also for his family. Timmy moved in with family members, so all of a sudden they've got this adult male that they've not known for 24 years living in their home. I mean, that's an adjustment for the family as well as for Timmy, right? And so people don't. I didn't think about this. He didn't have a driver's license, so it wasn't like he could just get in a car, and didn't have a car for sure. Get in, he couldn't just get to a job, go look for a job. I mean, Northwest Indiana does not have great public transportation. And, here he is, he's out. And so it's like, how's he going to get a job? Where's he going to live? There's so many questions that
it's even beyond that. It's like, Timmy, I'm sure have you seen during the course of your life Shawshank Redemption, the movie?
Uh-huh.
So like there's that scene where he was a long timer, man, a guy that had been completely indoctrinated because he had been in prison his entire life. He knew nothing about the outside world, and he gets out, and he's an old man at that point, and he's like the world up and God, the world up and got fast on me, because like when he went in, there weren't even cars, and he's getting out and there's cars driving around, and he doesn't have any concept. And in that sense, I mean, when you went in, I mean, like cell phones, like smartphones weren't even a thing. You came in back into society, into a completely different world. I mean, it's like I don't know if they gave you a tablet or some shit in there. I don't think they were doing that back then at that point. But man, it's like you're coming into like a science fiction movie in terms of where we've come technology wise, and everything's moving faster. And you've just been out of society for so long, so long. Like trying to reacclimate to that has to be impossible. Or near impossible. And that's why you need support, which I think is ultimately going to get us to you and Nikki and her bringing you in. But man, it's like that part of these stories, I think, is just never told properly in terms of what it's like to come out after being incarcerated for all that time and stripped from everything. And you're a kid who didn't have the ability to, and what did they have you do when you were in prison? Did you have like a prison gig?
Yeah. I wailed at the prison. Did plumbing. I know how to do plumbing work at the prison. So I try to keep myself busy physically and mentally.
And so
I went to college. I earned my GED, so I try to keep myself busy.
So that's amazing. And you made the most of your time that you could in there, at least in terms of learning skills, learning trades, getting an education to put yourself at least in a position to where you're not completely flat on your back when you get out, where I'm sure there's plenty of guys in there that don't do what you did. And, and they're just counting the days, and they just let the days go by, and they choose to play cards and hang out with their homies and shit, not do the work. But, the other thing that I think that people need to understand is when you're released after a sentence and they put you in a halfway house, they try to set you up with a job. When you're still in the system, but you're out on parole, it's very different than when they open the cell and they say, hey man, good luck, dude. Because you're not accountable to anybody at all. And you're on your own. And I mean, thankfully you had family, but like Nikki said, I mean, it's been 24 years and you're a grown man now.
Okay, but I got to interrupt here. I'm like chomping at the bit here. So let's think about what you just said, Bob. There's parole, there's reentry, there's these programs to help inmates when they get out. I sit on 2 prison boards. I'm very familiar with reentry efforts. But what I didn't know until I met Mr. Donald, there's no reentry efforts for people who are wrongfully convicted. So they're not eligible for the same reentry efforts as somebody who actually committed the robbery or the murder. So when I go out and I talk to people, and we do police trainings now, we talk to the police and we explain that to them, everybody's shocked. I told the governor and he was shocked. And it's something that I think everybody should know, that not only are they being victimized while they are wrongly incarcerated, but they're re-victimized or continuing to be victimized once they get out. And I say this in every podcast, every interview: freedom is never free. Timmy Donald is still not free. When we go places, he looks at cameras. He makes sure that the camera sees him. He saves receipts everywhere he goes. So you and I, Bob, we go out, we live our life, and we're not looking for cameras, and we're not worried about that alibi for the receipt. And Timmy, I'm going to share this story. I've shared it before, but I'm going to share it just so your viewers can really understand the power of the fear of, rearrest. One morning on a Saturday, about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, I got a phone call, and Timmy never calls. He always texts me, and he knows I always I respond immediately. And it was early Saturday morning, and he calls me, and I say, "Hey, what's up?" And he's like, "Hey, did you see that there was a armed robbery at a bank in Gary, Indiana?" I said, "Yeah, I saw it on the, Chicago news. I saw it last night." And he's like, "Security guard was killed." And I said, "Yeah, I saw it. It was terrible, And he said, "Listen, this is where I was last night." He was at I didn't even think about this, Timmy, but you were at another fried chicken place, right? Or Sharks or something like that. And so he's like, "This is, where I was. I'm sending you a picture of the receipt." And I was like, "Timmy, what is wrong with you? Nobody's, what? He goes, "I bank there. It's down the street from where I live. I'm just letting you know if something happens." And I broke out crying. I was hysterical. My husband comes in. He's like, "What's wrong?" And I told him, and he's like, "I'm a white man and I don't think like that. I don't even think about, hey, there was a bank robbery and they're going to come after me." So these are the things that I want folks to understand. This is the trauma. It continues, and it continues daily for Mr. Donald.
Yeah. And it's that, in terms of, and I've worked on the defense side of this for a long time. I've been in the system. So I'm probably closer to Timmy than you are, Nicky, in terms of, I don't have much trust for the government and the police. I'm typically pretty paranoid, but the reality of it is the PTSD that you have from being in there for that long. And that's real. And another part of the reentry that you weren't afforded as an exoneree, which that's what Nicky and I were talking about, like that concept that you walk out and they pat you on the butt and they say, "Take care now, man," and you get nothing, but like the psychological side of this, where you're not getting any kind of treatment, trying to deal with, because it's like, I mean, we adapt as human beings. Like I'm sure you adapted. You adapted to being in prison because that's what we do as human beings. We can adapt to the shittiest conditions known to mankind. And then it doesn't prepare you for when you get out, and that becomes your reality. And when you're out back in this big, big world, and it's overwhelming to the point where you can't breathe, it's a real thing. And it's scary, man. And not being able to even go talk to somebody who's trained to try to help you mentally and psychologically, like, make your way into the world again. I'm sorry you had to go through all that, man. And I'm so grateful that you're out, truly. 24 years is way too long, but man, I mean, you're here now. Yeah, you're here now, and let's talk about the work you're doing. So when do you and Nicky meet, and how does that relationship develop?
I'll let Dr. Jackson tell that story. She got to tell that story.
All right. So I had read an article right after Timmy got out of prison in the newspaper, and I'm really good friends with the prosecutor. So this is something that people find very crazy. I've been good friends with the prosecutor now for 35 years. What happened was I called him and said, hey, I just read the story about a man who was locked up for almost 24 years. Is he innocent, or is he out on a procedural error? And he said, no, he's innocent. He's 100% innocent. And I was like, oh, so what are you going to do for him? And he said nothing. And I just couldn't, I could not accept that answer. I just could not accept that answer. So I reached out I read about the attorney. So I found the attorney in the paper. I reached out to Mr. Vanes, didn't know him before. And I know a lot of the attorneys out here, but interestingly, did not know him. So I called him and I said, hey, I want to meet, Mr. Donald. And he said, okay, let me ask him. And so I get an email shortly thereafter, and he says, his client is willing to meet with me. So either the next day or the day after, we met at a diner with his brother-in-law, Dan. And Timmy didn't do any talking, really, not much, actually. Looked down a lot, but he'd only been out for 3 weeks. I mean, he'd only been out of prison for 3 weeks. And here's this woman he doesn't know at all. I don't know Timmy. And his brother-in-law told me the story. And when I heard that there was nothing for Timmy that the state was doing to help him with reentry, and it was by the grace of God that Dan and Sheila had taken him in and let him live in the basement of their home. He had no job. He had no nothing. So long story short, I found out there was no compensation bill here in Indiana. And I said to Timmy, I said, I promise I'm going to work on all of these things and right these wrongs. And I remember, talking about righting wrongs. And then I went to my car, and I say this in every interview, and I literally had a breakdown, a literal breakdown, because here I am I promised this man who has been traumatized and lied to by all these people and doesn't trust anybody. And I just made promises. How am I going to let him know there are people in this world that he can trust? So that night, everything changed in my world. When I got home, I started reaching out to people, and I started working on legislation. I hosted a dinner and invited legislators, and somebody from the Innocence Project in New York flew out, and we talked about the importance of compensation. And I'm proud to say that we were able to get a bill created and passed here in Indiana. It's got a lot of flaws. And I tried fighting against those flaws, but I'm not a politician. I don't get to make those decisions. But the biggest flaw in that bill was that, again, re-victimizing the victim, is exonerees have to choose between civil litigation or compensation. They can't do both. Not like Illinois. It's not like Illinois.
Right.
So I'm like, that's not fair. It's just, and I even said, listen, what if they win a lawsuit and it's like $10 million and they're owed $1 million from compensation? Why can't they just pay the state back that $1 million? They should be able to. And they're like, oh, it's like, double dipping. I'm like, no, it isn't. You and I, Bob, have a right to sue somebody who wrongs us. And nobody's going to tell us we can't do that, right? We may not win, but we have the right to pursue that. These folks are being held hostage with this, clause that, hey, you have to choose between filing this compensation compensation claim in the state or pursuing litigation. So there's some issues, but then
they call that a Hobson's choice. Where
is that what it is?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you have no choice at all. It's like, in a case where clearly, you should elect to sue civilly, because that's where you're going to get the bigger, settlement and or reward if you end up going to trial. But, I mean, like, it's like, yeah, that's disturbing that they would do that. And it's like you said, like you went and did amazing work to get them to acknowledge that there's this huge gaping hole in the system. And then, when they decide to do something about it, they put in some kind of ridiculous clause wherein, they're giving these guys that get out no choice, because I mean, who's going, if they've gone and talked to an attorney about like a 1983 civil rights claim, and, this lawyer's like, yeah, man, it's a good case, I'm going to take it up. And, and then they give you the offer or the compensation where it can put a little money in your pocket right now. I mean, that they know that's tempting. Like, it's just a shitty thing for the state to do, for the government to do, because they know more often than not, the guys are probably going to bite on getting that money up front rather than waiting 3, 4, 5, 6 years down the road. It's sad.
Yeah, then they take out these huge lawsuits, or I mean, not lawsuits, loans. I can't speak right now, but loans. I get so angry when I talk about this. They take out these loans and the interest rate. I hope your listeners hear me loud and clear. The interest rate is somewhere between 100% to 200%.
Wow.
Imagine that. Imagine that. So these, I've met exonerees who have, borrowed $1 million. They've had to pay back, $2 million, $3 million, and they've lost everything. They've lost it all. And I told the governor there should be a cap, and he said in Indiana there is, but I don't know if there is in Illinois. But the exoneree I was talking about was in Illinois. So these lawyers are connecting them to these, I call them loan sharks. And they're making a profit because, Bob, you just said it. They feel like if you have no money, you have to get the money somewhere to live, or you're going to be sleeping on a park bench. Right. Timmy was lucky in a sense that he had family, but many of these exonerees, family members have died, or they have no relationship with them anymore. So it's just also egregious. The other thing that in this compensation bill, they have to go before a panel. So now all of a sudden they have to prove they are innocent. Like, what? What? You're going to make them sit before the same people who traumatized you before, these judges, these prosecutors. You're going to make them go. I mean, obviously they're different people, but they represent the same
concept. Thing. Yeah, it's a government.
Yeah. And they're making them go back. And how do you prove you're innocent? Really prove you're innocent? So there's just so many problems. And this is why we have our organization. We're working hard to make changes for all the innocent men and women out there and their families who have suffered. I mean, this is not just an exoneree problem. This is a systemic problem, and it's a problem. It's a familial problem. I've seen mothers who've lost their life savings, their retirement, because they've been paying legal bills, to help their child try to get out of prison. And who's protecting them? They don't have a bill out there that says, hey, you can get compensated for all the money you spent. These people are just SOL.
Yeah.
And children whose parents have been locked up for decades, who didn't know their parents. I had one daughter of an exoneree, female exoneree, say to me, who do you think brushed my hair? No one. I didn't have anybody to talk to when I started dating because my mom was locked up. I mean, there's just so many problems, and I don't think people understand. And that's why I did this research and talked to the family members and to exonerees about what life was like before and after, because changes have to be made. These are victims. I have worked with domestic violence victims, sexual assault victims for decades. And when I met Timmy, I met another victim. That's what I met. The abuser
100%.
was our victim, right? So we want to make him a survivor, just like rape victims, domestic violence victims. We want them to become survivors. And through your audience, through you, through Timmy, through me, through everybody, we can make change. And that's what we are really wanting. And that's why we're sitting here talking to you. It's not to get famous or whatever. It is because change needs to happen. And Timmy will tell you, he calls me a pit bull. I do not take no. I do not. He's always saying, you're a pit bull. When the compensation bill came about, an attorney came up to me and she said, I've tried for, I forgot what she said, 20 or 30 years to get a compensation bill. You walk in and a year later, here we all are. And what it is just you bring all the right people to the table. And I think when you're that passionate, mean, Timmy is a human being. He is a human being. His mother is a human being. And one of the things, Bob, you mentioned earlier, I wanted to get to, and that was when you said, Timmy never got married. One of the things that Timmy has shared with me over the years, over the past 9 years of knowing each other, he said, I don't have children. I mean, he was 20. He was a good kid doing, living a good life. And, he wasn't knocking up girls and having kids here and there. He has no children. I mean, now he has a girlfriend, and she has children. He's become like a step parent, which is great. And I've watched him. He's amazing. But he doesn't have his own children. He didn't get to choose his own path. I mean, I didn't even know he had a girlfriend until right now at the time of his arrest. This is the first I heard that in 9 years. Maybe that relationship would have blossomed into a marriage and children.
Well, he's a good-looking guy. I got no doubt. If it
Oh
wasn't
yeah,
her, it would have
everywhere
been
we
somebody
go,
else.
everywhere we go, girls are always after him. Believe me, everywhere we go.
That's the heart of it. He was robbed from of the prime of his life. Period. End of
No
conversation.
Social Security,
There's
pension.
There's no going
nothing.
back on that. Yeah, no, and it's I like. That's why when you asked me if I wanted to join the board, I couldn't raise my hand fast enough. Because it's incredibly important to me, and that's why I'm grateful to you, Timmy, for coming on and telling your story, man. Because frankly, that's the only way that people out there know what's going on. Because it's like people just tend to live their own lives, and they walk around with blinders on, and they have no idea what's going on out here in these streets. And until we start screaming with the bullhorn, which is what I try to do on this channel about certain things that I care a lot about, that's the time when people start to open their eyes, and little movements turn into big movements. And, what I want you to know is that, like, I got you, man. I'm all behind you. I'm going to be doing the good work with Dr. Nicky, and, I can't wait. And I'm going to use my platform the best way that I can to help get our stories out, to get your stories out, not just yours. There's a lot of people out there, man, that are in the same exact boat that you are.
When you come to our office, you will see how many cases we have. People writing to us after People Magazine did the story. Kim Kardashian zoomed into my class with me. After all these things happened, people started hearing about us. I mean, I'm just a college professor from some small little university, right? No, I didn't expect all of these people reaching out. And I'm just blessed that the university supported us in starting this organization. And I think we're doing some great things. We've done the first police trainings in the state of Indiana. We go to high schools. We help other exonerees with reentry. Timmy's even taken one for a job interview. Like, how cool is that? Paying that forward. But there's so much work to be done.
I'm going to pull this up.
Oh,
so this is the site.
Yeah, it's being revamped this next 2 weeks.
Don't apologize for the site. It looks awesome.
No, it
looks great.
Yeah,
so, and we've been dropping the link, y'all, in here. If you want to come check out the site, there's obviously ways you can donate. If cash is the only thing you can do, because either you're out of the country, you don't live in the States, or for whatever reason, you don't have the ability to dedicate your time. Money always helps. That's for certain, but go through the site. You can see this is the picture that you were talking about from People Magazine, but it's a great site. It's got a lot of resources on there. It talks, I was going through it pretty thoroughly. And it's, you're doing amazing work, and I'm honored to have been asked to come on board and try to help and do what I can to help move forward on so many issues. There's so many issues that surround the concept of wrongful convictions that it's like, it's hard to fathom. And it's like, I have lives where I have 2, 3, 4, 5,000 people on them. And, I have something that's probably I'm more passionate about than anything that I cover. And, we've only got 250 people in here. So like, I'm going to continue to hammer people over the head with it because it's that important to me.
Yeah, and I think, Bob, if I just add, we are working on cases, but our biggest case that we took on before I even started the center, I think you're going to be talking about our case with Bob Ruff. So I'm hoping your audience will tune into you, and they will tune into Bob Ruff's Truth and Justice podcast. It's a case that of a gentleman who's been wrongly convicted out of Gary, Indiana. He's done 25 years, serving 300 years for 5 murders. And Bob can share more of the details, because I don't want to give it away, since you guys are going to be talking about the case and he's going to be talking about it. But when his family reached out to me, in 2021, Chris Bynum's family reached out. I explained I'm not an attorney, I'm a PhD. And they were like, we see your passion and we see the fight and we need you. And, I told Timmy, we got to do this. And then once we opened the center, that case, became really the case that we are waiting for the day to bring Chris Bynum home. And we are very fortunate to be working with an amazing legal team, including Michael Osbrook and Jenner and Block. And so together it takes a village, and I'm very fortunate that we've got this village. But Timmy and I have been working this case for a long time. So if folks have questions, or have information after Bob Ruff, talks to you, reach out to us, because we would welcome any new information or any information on this case. It's a crazy, complicated case. Timmy will tell you it's the most complicated case we've ever seen. But we're hopeful. We're hopeful that through your viewers, we're going to make some noise with the same prosecutor that worked Timmy's case. And think about this. Prosecutor knew 3 years prior to Timmy getting out of prison that he didn't do it. 3 years prior. And Timmy still sat in prison for 3 years.
Let that sink in.
That
happens all over this country. All over this country.
And there's no punishment. Like, think about Detective Outlaw. Think about the prosecutor in Timmy's case, the actual prosecutor. The current prosecutor was not the prosecutor in Timmy's case. Their lives have moved on. They have pensions. They have Social Security. The prosecutor in Timmy's case has moved on to a bigger, better job. And nobody has, other than our current prosecutor, has apologized to Timmy. Our current prosecutor has apologized to Timmy. And I thought that was amazing. But he did apologize to Timmy. But no one else.
We need more guys like that in those offices. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, but we need him to do the same thing in the Bynum case, to say, hey, and that was under his direction. So, but anyway, we need him to really look at the Bynum case carefully, because we know there was a lot of police corruption happening. I think there was a question earlier about bad investigation or police corruption. I think it's both. I think it's a lot of let's just find somebody and be done with it. And it's today's your day, Timmy Donald. You are it today. Indeed. And I think that's what was happening at the time.
Well, like I've told you, Nikki, you and my wife are going to be thick as thieves. I predicted two pit bull raven, probably short women that just are unstoppable.
I am sure
they're tenacious. I predict you guys are going to really enjoy each other.
I'm looking forward to meeting her.
She's definitely a pit bull.
Yeah. So is my wife, man. She's been my law partner for a long time, and nobody fights harder than Allison. So Allison and Nikki and myself and the whole team. I'm looking forward. I can't wait to come give you a hug, my man. Because that's exactly what I'm doing. Because as soon as I see you, I'll just warn you, I'm a hugger. So
that's okay.
So you know that. Just so you know that. Well, is there anything, Timmy, you got any final messages, man? I kept you guys on for 1 hour and 45 minutes. Is there anything else you want to say?
I want your listeners to know, to understand that when they see people in handcuffs, they see people say that they're the ones that committed the crime. The police saying they committed the crime. The prosecutor saying they committed the crime. They probably this they probably you just got to use your common sense. Don't use tunnel vision, and when you judging cases and stuff, just let everything play out.
That is sage advice, my friend, and I give it every single day on this channel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really do. My second season of my podcast is called Tunnel Vision because it's a real thing, and the cops, they weren't there when this shit went down. All they have is a theory and nothing more, and so it's like
theories,
theories.
whatever sticks. But I do want to say, because I have a lot of students who are police officers out there, and Timmy and I talk about this. We really don't dislike police.
No.
Timmy and I both really like police, but it just takes one bad cop, one bad prosecutor to impact the lives of thousands.
100%.
We need more good cops, and we are very lucky. Timmy and I, we know a lot of great cops. We know good prosecutors too, but it's the bad ones. When I say bad, meaning that they are tunnel visioned or they are engaging in behavior that is, we would call misconduct today, right? So anyway, I think, Timmy, you said it very well. For your audience, Bob, just keep your eyes and your ears open. And the minute you see somebody in handcuffs, that doesn't mean they're really guilty. I sit on 2 prison boards, and every time somebody says offender at one of the board meetings, I raise my hand and say, not everybody in here is an offender. So let's use a different word in here. So I probably drive them crazy, but it's true.
Yeah, no, and more than your eyes and your ears, your minds are what you have to keep open. And we live in a society that we've been hammered over the head that all the cops are good guys and all the prosecutors are good guys and they always get it right. And that's just not the truth. That's just not the truth of what's going on out there. So, I for 3 years, I've been doing everything I can with a bullhorn, trying to educate people. And I know that the people that are subscribe to this channel, I've made a lot of headway, and I have a feeling that we've just scratched the surface in terms of our outreach and being able to get the message out there, because I think once people's eyes are opened to what you're talking about, Timmy, that concept of, we have to really apply and believe in the concept of the presumption of innocence, because without that, I mean, we've got nothing. We really don't. And it's a thing that when I would sit and try cases, and that would be the first thing that I would ask prospective jurors, I'm like, just by way of this person being arrested, are you already starting from a place that you think that they've already done something, just mentally, just like is a normal human instinct that they have because they've been conditioned that way. And, and I'm always begging them, please just be honest, and they typically will say, yeah, they're here for a reason, is what they say. And which is my first red flag. I'm like, well, I'm not going to be able to change that person's mind during the course of this trial, because that's the way they've been trained to think. So we have to untrain minds from the way that they've been trained to think for decades and decades and decades. So we've got a lot of work to do, but we've got an army that's willing to do it, and there's a lot of freedom fighters out there. So I'm extremely optimistic, and let's just keep fighting the good fight.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Bob, for having us on. And
thanks for having me, Bob.
My pleasure, man. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you guys so much. And I can't wait to come see you, Nicky. It's going to be soon, and hopefully you'll be working that day, dude. So I'll be here. All right. And Nicky, I'll talk to you after. Thank you guys so much for joining.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Take care. Dr. Nicky, I'll talk to you shortly. She's frozen. All right, y'all. So there you go. There you have it. So I these stories are so important. I'm thankful that you guys hung around and listened, and I hope that you guys all took something from it. And there's a lot of these stories out there, a lot of them. And speaking of which, we're going to be talking with Bob Ruff tonight about another one of them. Is Dr. Jackson said, Chris Bynum case is one of those cases that is currently going, still in there. He's been in there for 24 years as well, Chris Bynum. And People are fighting like hell to right that wrong. So I hope you'll join tonight. I've redirected everybody or set the portal for that. And then we're going to talk with Bob. And then I will be portaling our show from tonight over to Publicly Buzz, where I'll be hanging out with Steve and Lauren Conlon. Sure, we'll be talking about Koberger. So yeah, busy day of Bob. You guys know I adore you. I love you guys so much. Aw, family hugs to all of you, because you guys make this channel churn, and don't be afraid to have a voice out there. We need y'all. It's like I'm recruiting you to be advocates for the right things that we need out there. Pick your cases wisely. Pick your horses that you're going to decide to hitch your star to, and put your energy and time and resources into wisely. It's what I do in terms of being a lawyer and deciding cases that I think that people need help. Just vet the information that's out there before you just start pounding on the table and screaming that people are innocent. You should really kind of get all the facts and understand what the story is, and then kind of go from there. And a lot of these cases that are in the system already, that have already gotten some momentum, a lot of people have done that work for you, and it's these types of cases. It was Timmy's case, and then now we're talking about Chris Bynum's case. And, I have not forgotten, and I will be 100% diving back into Barton McNeil's case. I actually was just talking to Chris's cousin last night. He's worried that I'm dipping on him. There's not a chance. But that one requires me to do a lot of homework in order to give you guys information during the lives. I highly recommend you go back and watch the first live I did on Barton McNeil. He is in the same place that Jamie Snow is, which I see Jennifer Hill is talking about right here. Jennifer and Barton and Jamie, we actually heard their arguments at ISU on the same day. Both of those were denied, and their fight continues. But we love you guys so much. We thank you for your support constantly. Let me go through these. Thanks, Jennifer. I'm wrongfully convicted advocate, as both Bob Mata and Ruff know. Jamie Snow in Illinois. So glad you're free. Timmy, amazing work. Dr. Jackson. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Kai, member for 9 months. Thank you, Timmy, for sharing your story with us. And thank you, Kai, for being a ride or die. History and homicide. I'm so sorry, Timmy. Thanks for sharing. Thank you so much for your generosity and the kind thought. More than that. Vincent McCormick, new member. Oh, family hugs. Welcome, Vincent. We're so glad you're here. Drenda, we love you. Thanks for being a member for 6 months. And then Wallflower started it all off with gifting 5DD podcast memberships. We thank you. Thank you so much for helping us build the community, Wallflower. We really, really appreciate it. I will see y'all later tonight, because if you're not there, I'm just an old man talking about a lot of cases. See you later. Bye.